Good afternoon. Thank you for being with us. We have the opportunity to have with us Lauren Hodges, who is founder and CEO of a company called Performance on Purpose. Thank you for being with us, Lauren.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Lauren, could you please be so kind to present your organization?
Yes, of course. So we are a global leadership development company, and we are rooted in human performance sciences, which is sort of a multidisciplinary approach to leadership and performance optimization. And we use human performance sciences to inform our training and our coaching practices with leaders and organizations.
Recently, you published a book, Less Stress, More Calm. What the book is about?
Yeah, so part of the human performance world is obviously the world of how we manage stress. And for a long time, I was a consultant in the field of corporate well-being. And I was very lucky to work with some of the global leaders in this space. And I had the opportunity to work on a particular course and research around the neuroscience of stress. And one of the things we were researching was some science that was coming out of Stanford Medicine in California in the States at the time. This was maybe 2016. And there was a lot of really interesting research emerging around how we show up when we experience negative stress. So the research was on mental illness, but the part that I really fell in love with was how we uniquely show up under stress. And so the crux of the book is this, that we are all very uniquely wired to experience stress very differently. And the patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior that we experience under stress are not the same as everyone else. And when we can get to know what that looks like for us, we call them stress personalities. We have 8 different ones that we've identified, but it's not an exhaustive list. When we can get to know that part of ourselves and that awareness that we build, we can then kind of catch it a little bit sooner, and we can develop interventions or rituals that work better for us. Not only that, as individuals, if we're reading this from the perspective of leaders or managing teams, we can get to know this kind of uniquely diverse team that we have and how they're experiencing things like change or challenge or crisis all very differently. And we can design communication strategies and interventions or rituals, even in the workplace, that can help support teams as well. So that's the book.
Very, very interesting. You know that our organization, SIPS for Networking in Italy, our mission is the concept of enjoy your career. So to help the participant in order to accelerate their career, but not only accelerate, enjoy it, know what you really want from your career. And I think that self-awareness is a basic element. So could you, your idea about what is stress awareness?
Yeah, I can unpack that a little bit. So I think that there's 2 elements to stress awareness. And I'm glad that you did not say stress reduction, because there is no such thing. We have a tremendous amount of demand in our life, personally and professionally. And the more that we climb in our careers, the greater those demands and stressors are going to become. And that's not always a bad thing, right? So these demands and stressors are opportunities for growth, wisdom, skill development, et cetera. And some of the stressors we face are obviously not so great, just the demands of aging or caring for aging parents or whatever it might be. A lot of demands in our life. So the 2 elements of stress awareness that we focus on, number 1, identify the triggers. What is it that creates experiences of negative stress in your life, even if it's something that is, for example, something that we shouldn't be interpreting negatively. Maybe there's different environmental factors or situational factors where we take the same stressor that normally we wouldn't react to, and now we're experiencing it negatively. So what are the triggers, the situations, the environments that might trigger stress in a bad way? And number 2, how are we showing up? This individualized approach to stress management is getting to know how you and I uniquely experience it. For example, I'm a procrastinator. I can push off things. I don't like to be uncomfortable, have difficult conversations with my team. So I tend to be more of an avoider, where some other people on my team might be a little bit more aggressive. They might be more of a fighter, and they might lean in and act without thinking or things like that. Until we get to know that part of ourselves and what triggers it, it's very difficult to manage stress effectively, which can seriously impact our performance downstream, both personally and professionally.
And also the ability to recognize ourselves is a first step to be able to recognize the reaction of our team, no? So as a
Exactly.
leader, you need really to understand that your team, if you have multiply people similar to you will never have a success. So you need to bring into your team diversity. But the key element in inclusion is to manage the people very diverse from you, so a different way to react to stress, no? And the ability to recognize this is really the ability to manage as an orchestrator your team.
Exactly. And to have different resources, communication strategies, and approaches, even just different systems and processes to better support everybody on a team, as opposed to leading the way that you think you should be leading because this is how I show up. So everybody else, of course, shows up the same way. So, yes, you're exactly right.
Very, very important, especially now that we have in all our organization more and more people with top position, with different background, nationality, or is very important because this also include the cultural elements in that are has to be known into when you are making business at high level in a big organization. You really need to be inclusive to people with a very different background from yours. One question to you. Would you be so kind to share with us one example where with one of your coaches managed to learn and to increase their self-awareness, and through this ability and your methodology, they managed to convert stress into an opportunity and opportunity into performance?
Yes, absolutely. I'll give you an example, two examples. One is a probably more globally recognized brand, and that would be Estee Lauder Companies. Though I'm not coaching anyone in specific there, I'm doing more of a consultative role in learning and development. One of the things that they really embraced about this research was the idea of stress and recovery, that it's not the stressors that are the problem for all of us, whether we're at the top of a leadership chain like Fabrizio, who was the former CEO of Estee Lauder Companies, or an entry-level employee. It's not the stress, it's the absence of recovery. And so they really embrace this idea of integrating more recovery into the day because the stressors were going to continue, as I mentioned earlier, to continue to come, especially in an ever-changing global economy and economic landscape. And so they integrated this very strategically into their systems. And they started with how they were conducting meetings. They instituted, this is back in 2020, when online meetings were becoming more and more prevalent. They instituted a mandatory 25-minute meeting and 50-minute meeting time so that everybody had just a little bit of space in between calls and meetings, which were growing at the time, of course. Everyone was remote. And that gave everybody a little bit of time to oscillate between the stressors they were facing and a little bit of recovery. And that oscillation principle is heavily embedded into their well-being and learning and development content at this point now in 2025. As a very small example of a huge downstream impact on the performance of the organization as a whole. Another more individualized example is I was working with the first female CEO of a US-based national long-term care facility here back in 2017 when we first started. She had very big shoes to fill, and I mean that literally. She's a very little woman and the first female in the organization to lead the company. And she had a lot of pressure on her, of course. The story was that she had to be always on, always present, the last one to leave in the office, the last one to be answering emails, the first one in the morning. So her sleep was being impacted. She wasn't exercising. She wasn't connecting with her family. All of the things that what we would consider strategic recovery examples that are necessary in such a high demand position. She was very hesitant at first. It took us about 4 to 6 months to really embrace this idea of stress and recovery and to get to know how she was showing up. And we made some very small movements on the dial, a little bit here, a little bit there, maybe a little bit of exercise or movement during the day, for example. And to make a long story short, she made huge transformations individually. But what that did downstream for the organization, her C-suite, her senior leadership team, once she backed away from being involved in every conversation and every email and embracing a little bit more boundaries between her work and her personal life, it gave them the opportunity and permission to do the same, everybody started to work more productively and efficiently. And they even down maybe two years after we started, they instituted a no call, no meeting Wednesdays for everyone to have a block of time where they could really fully recover, catch up, have conversations they needed to have, et cetera, et cetera. And it really started to transform the organization, and their bottom line was impacted. It's 2025 now. She was on board until she retired last year, and they were thriving when she retired. She saw really wonderful growth in the bottom line of that organization. And I do think a lot of it had to do with these systemic changes that she integrated just based on some of the individual work that we were doing together.
I used to say that a happy boat is a quick boat. I make a racing in sailing, and a happy boat, if the atmosphere is good, normally the boat became a winning boat as well. Lauren, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it very much, and I wish you a lot of success for your personal and professional life.
Thank you. I appreciate it.